For the last 20 years, I've worked with incredible teams in India. Today, I'm sitting down with someone who helped me understand the culture, the talent, and why India has become one of the most important business centers in the world. Y'all, welcome Vijay. What's up, Vijay?
Hey, hi Bill, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great, and it's good. It's good to be talking to you. We've had some great history, and worked together for many years, and really looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, I've known you for how long now, Bill? I think 2009 is when we started working
Yeah, I think it
together.
was. I think
So
it was
it's been
2009.
in Norwalk, Ohio. So
Good
I
old
remember that
Norwalk.
quite well.
Oh, yeah,
That's right.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely no. So let's get a little bit about your backstory, right? So for people who've never lived or work in India, give us like a little window into your background. Like, where did you grow up? Like, what shaped your career? Like, how did you get into IT and consulting?
Good. So I'll keep it brief, and I think as we have this conversation, we can probably chip in a little bit more from my previous experience.
Sure.
But I born and brought up in India. So I was born in the western part of India. Uh, I did my initial schooling in India as well, right? Uh, so then when I was 15, my dad got a job in the US. So our whole family relocated to the US, right? So I finished, 10th grade, and then I did 2 years of high schooling in the US. I moved to Indiana, right? So
Okay.
Midwest is where I got started. Great, great experience. Very good people, right? In Indiana as well. So I did a couple of years of high school. Finished my high school up in Indiana, and then I went to college in same in Indiana. I went to Purdue. Did got a degree in industrial engineering. Then started working after I graduated. I got into the tech sector, right? Because industrial engineering, I think back in those days, I realized pretty soon when I was close to graduation that all the industry is actually moving out of America and tech is where you need to be, right?
Uh
So a
huh.
little late through my college career, I realized that, and I think it was a good move, right? At the end of the day, so I moved out, uh, I was in India and I was doing some remote consulting at that point of time. Worked on site with a couple of clients. Did was in the data space, right? So similar as you, Bill. Data migration, data governance. Did a couple of projects,
Okay.
and I think around 2007 or 2008 is when the financial crisis hits. So I get laid off from my
Okay.
organization, and you work with them. So I kind of stuck around for 6 months, just kind of looking out for opportunities, and then I get a call from you. I say, hey, if there is, if you want to move out to Norwalk, Ohio, I'll be happy to bring you into my team. So that's when I joined you in Norwalk, Ohio. I think I was what employee number 4 or 5
Yeah.
when we were
Yeah. I
working
think you're.
or
you
started
you
working. uh, right. So that's where I started working with you. We did that for a couple of years, and then there was an opportunity in India which you thought about, and I wanted to go back to India as well. Spent quite a bit of time in the US. I thought this is a good time for me to move back to India. Family, I had some, my dad wasn't well at that point of time either, so that's when I decided to move back to India, right? So 15, I moved to the US, spent another 13, 14 years in the US, and then moved back to India back in 2011, and have been working over here ever since, right? So I think that's kind of been my brief life journey, and we can kind of get more into the details after that, right?
yeah.
So I can
Absolutely.
give you
Absolutely.
some perspective on both sides, right?
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. How I think this is important. How did we connect? Like, was it a mutual friend, a referral? Do you remember? Was it some sort of ad that we were running? How did we connect? Because share
No,
it. You know.
no, I think so. I was in touch with the organization, right? That where I got laid off from. I told them, they were like, "Look, if you find an opportunity, we'll let you know." But it was a tough environment, right? The financial crisis. Uh,
Yes.
I think they reached out to me and said that we have a role, but it's in Ohio. And I was, I was single at the time. I had no nothing else going on. I was like, all right, absolutely. Let me pack up my bags. I called you up. We had a call, and then
Yeah.
I just relocated over there. So that was it. I think it was just an internal referral to the organization.
Okay. Very good. Very
Yeah.
good. All right. Well, let's get into some of the nitty gritty here surrounding India. So I want you to help me around some of the stereotypes I think that a lot of Western culture have when they think about India and like, they think about outsourcing. And again, just being real, right? Like they may think about outsourcing or call centers or maybe, they call in for tech support and they get somebody that they can barely understand. Help me about what parts of India's business culture they're missing, right? That they're not getting, that is happening.
No, I think call centers is a perfect example, right? So if you just take that, right,
Yeah.
there's some grain of truth to that, right? So that used to happen, right? I think late 90s, early 2000s, there was, a lot of the call centers were located in India, right? So when you called
Mm-hmm.
up tech support or any sort of support that you needed, you'd usually get somebody in India who'd be answering your phone, right? But over time, I think that has, initially a lot of that work moved out to the Philippines because Philippines is an American colony. They don't just speak English; they speak American, right? So initially, a lot of the work
Yeah.
went to the Philippines, and Filipinos are, very hospitable. So I think that customer service culturally fit in really well with the North American audience. So a lot of that work actually went to the Philippines. Uh, and a lot of automation also came in after that. Now with AI, I think a lot of that market is essentially just wiped out, right? So there are maybe a handful of call centers in India that still service the US market. I
Okay.
think you'll see a lot of call centers which service the local India market, right? So today when I call up,
Mm.
help desk support, I'll get somebody in India. And India is so diverse. You have what, 28, 30 languages, right, that you have to work on. So there'll be call centers set up for various different languages, for various different organizations, right? But a lot of that call center work is I think if it's there, it's very, very small. But what I would say is that over time, as is the case that happens with most countries, right? You move up the value chain, right? So you go from call center, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically just doing basic level tech support. From then you move into technology outsourcing, right? So that's where a lot of your large scale IT organizations, right? It started off with the Indian technology giants, right? Your Infosys, Wipro, and all of that, and then later on followed up by the large global SIs as well, right? Accenture, IBM, all of these companies started setting up their technology centers in India. They've been doing it for a while, right? Even before some of
Yeah.
them are
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
before the call center started. But that growth, scaled up significantly over time as well, right? So I would say through the 2000s, the 2010s, that's kind of where you saw a bulk of that growth happening in India at that technology outsourcing, right? Both consulting, hardware, software outsourcing that was happening at that point. And then what we've seen, I would say, in the last maybe 5 years, right? And it's happened before that, but I think it's really kind of taken off over the last 5 to 7 years, is this whole concept of global captive centers or global innovation centers, right?
Okay.
GCCs. So I would say you take that and you put another leg up in terms of, the going up the value chain. So now these are, American, European, organizations that have now set up their own centers in India, right, where they're
Okay.
doing their own, and it's not just limited to technology. I think technology does take a big chunk of that work, but it's not just limited to technology, right? I think within that, like finance, HR, legal,
Okay.
marketing, even, I think there's a GCC in Hyderabad that was doing a lot of their sales analytics based out of Hyderabad. The entire sales, and this is a large scale Fortune 1000 organization who are doing a big chunk of their sales and analytics work based out of India as well, right? So it's really something. It's really something that has it's gone up the value chain. It has diversified into several different things. Banking is another key area, right? I think
Mm.
banking, we're in SAP, right? So we don't really deal with banking clients as much,
Yes,
right?
not so much. Yeah.
But banking is huge, right? I think, and within banking itself, right, their technology centers are set up in India. In addition to that, they're doing a lot of actual banking work, right? Equity research, M&A analysis, credit analysis. A lot of that work is now actually happening from India as well, right? So very, very different from what you see today versus what it was maybe 20 years ago or so, right? So hopefully that kind of covers a general spirit of where we're at.
No, that's good. You know, help us understand, put us in the mind of a kid growing up in India. I remember growing up, and the cool thing was, maybe to be a police officer, a fireman, a teacher, a pilot. Uh, what is like? Help us understand. Like, is it the same like as a kid growing up in India, or is it different?
Well, I think I can speak for the boys, but I think the boys would like to become cricketers when they grow up, as did
Oh,
I, right? But then,
okay,
but then
okay,
you realize there's only a handful of people who can become professional athletes, right?
okay.
Uh, but I think uh, technology, and especially IT, the IT industry, the level of boom that it was going through, a lot of people saw IT as the place to be if
Yeah.
they want to do something dramatic for their families, right? So if they want to get out of let's say they're in the lower middle class, and if they want to get into the upper middle class, right,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good way for you to do it, right?
Mm.
And I think that has I think India has evolved over time. The India that existed back in the days, right? I think people still considered government jobs as the safest bet. It's still there. I think a lot of population, it's still being having a government job was the place to be.
Okay.
Even if they didn't pay a whole lot, you didn't really have to do a whole lot of work. That was the mindset back in the days.
Okay.
But I think when the tech boom started, right? I think a lot of people feel that now getting into IT, getting into technology is now the place to be, right? And I think what's happened over time is that there's really been too many people now, right, who want to get into the industry. I don't think there's as much demand as there is supply, and
that
that's another thing that we're fighting.
that's wild. I asked that
Yeah,
because I find so many great IT professionals that I've worked with that are based out of India, and if you look in the SAP market, there's
yeah,
a there's a vast majority of the very highly skilled people are Indian, and
yeah.
what's really interesting about that, and why I asked is like nobody ever says in America I want to grow up and be an IT nerd. Nobody. Nobody's like, yeah, I'm gonna do IT. I'm gonna, I think, maybe in high school that changes and some people start looking at the world maybe a little
Yeah.
bit different, but it's not one of those great jobs from a I don't know, like an amazing
Coolness
yeah.
factor. It's not a cool job to be in, right?
Yes,
No,
it's
that's
not.
fair enough.
No, yeah, and then later you realize, the nerds rule. It's like
That's true.
okay, all right, yeah,
Yeah,
no, let's
yeah,
go. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that's great. Let me
No,
ask you.
yeah, go on.
No, and so you brought up something, and I visited India several times now, and I did see quite a vast chasm between like some of the different classes in India. So I saw very poor people living in makeshift huts and communities, all the way to the very rich. Uh, is it hard for people to move from one place in their life to another? Like here in America, I know there are some people that are more, some people use the word privileged or have a better start than others.
Yeah.
And but I feel like anybody that wants to move in America can. What are your thoughts about India and moving between like being poor to the next class or two or three classes or jumping a bunch of classes?
I would say it's a lot harder than what you have in the US. It's still
Okay.
possible, but it's still a lot harder, right? I think one of the And I went to an American school as well, right? So I studied
Yes.
I did my level, and this was a public school, right? I think most kids in America go to public schools, whereas in India, if you want to go to a good school, most of the time you need to go to a very expensive private school, right? So there's
Mm,
only a certain class of people who can afford to send their kids to these fancy schools where they're spending a lot of money, right? So you're talking about maybe top 5% of the folks who can do it, and they are the ones who can get the best opportunities once they come out, right? uh, but public schooling is a big problem, right? I think the quality
okay.
of education that we have at the schooling level is a major issue, right? Given the number of people that we have, number of young people we have, so I think it is harder, and I think there's also a lot more people, right? So you're talking about 1.5 billion is the population. The average age is around 28 and a half. About 28 is what the average age is. So there's a lot of young people as well that are involved in this one, right? So
Yeah.
there's not as many opportunities. There's a lot more people fighting for those opportunities, and that would usually create a challenge, right? So you have to be exceptional if you're in one of those lower categories to get to where you are, right? Some people have made it, uh, but as you know, right, Bill, I think if you're brought up in a family that is well off, that can send you
Yeah.
to a better school, your chances of success are going to be significantly higher than somebody who's not, right? And I think that's just the case, but more exemplified in India.
That's wild. I mean, because I resonate a little bit with that story. I mean, we weren't living in huts.
Mm.
That's right. I hear a little one. That's awesome.
What's up? I gotta say, I'm on a
You can
call,
say
brother.
yeah.
Sorry. Hi, say
He
hi.
can come and say hi. Yeah, come and say hi.
Hi, this is my daughter. This is
Hi.
my dog.
Hello. Well, hello. How are you?
You want to say something? Uh, you're
It's all
gonna have
good.
to you're gonna have to cut some of this out. All
No,
right, all right.
no. This no. You know what? This is real life. I love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I got my cat who's coming as well. That's fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
I got somebody else who's gonna come in, so we're gonna have to pause for a bit, Bill. I'm sorry.
No, no. I think this is great. These are the moments that I live for. It's
Do,
the
do you see
real.
my
I do. I
do you see
see
my
the
cat in the
cat. I
background?
love it. That'll yeah. That'll be the best part of the whole video. Seeing your daughter, seeing the cat. I love it. Where's Ruchi?
Ruchi is on a call. So do you do you remember, Bill? We were in our old Jubilee Hills office
Yes.
back in the days. Now he's meowing away. I gotta kick him out soon.
It's
But
okay.
in our in our old Jubilee Hills office, I had adopted a cat. He actually stayed in
Okay.
our office for one day.
Yeah.
Uh, I think he's the same guy. Yeah, he's the
Is it
same guy. He's still
really?
with us.
No
14,
way.
yeah,
Oh
15
my
years.
gosh. He's hungry.
No, he's just being needy. He's just had his meal. All right, I'm gonna kick him out now. Give me a
Yeah.
second.
Give him the boot.
All right, out you go.
Yeah, no,
Sorry
it's
about that. All
no,
right.
hey, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Um, yeah, so I
Where were we?
guess yeah, so let's just keep moving along here. So, uh, give our listeners an idea if you're working with a team in India, if you're working with a resource in India, what are some of the things that you just need to know and understand? Like help me help them with I'm working with resources in India. Is there anything different? Is there any ways of communicating just some cultural differences that you need to understand when you're working with someone in India?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think context matters, right? So if you're working with somebody, and if you're working on the same project, right, as we do in the service industry, right? First thing, let's understand the timings. Right? The most basic thing to understand is what are the timings these people are working, right? So right now
Okay.
it's what 6 p.m. in India right now,
All
right?
right.
And your day has just started, right?
Yes.
So typically, people in India, we do work till late. So I think generally 9:30, 10 o'clock India time is what people will generally work until. But if you are expecting these people to work, beyond, 12 noon your time, right?
For
Uh,
sure.
that's not, it's, you're asking someone to do something that is not reasonable, right?
Okay.
And a lot of times what happens is that their projects are sold in that way, right? They've been told that, okay, you can go and just take care of take care of the client,
Yeah.
right? Without
Yes.
any instructions, without any context
Yes.
setting with the client and beforehand. So I think first let's understand that, look, if you want to work with people uh, who you want to stick around in your team for a long period of time, and especially the folks that are, that are good, right? The ones like that, they will
Yes.
demand that, look, I need a certain level of comfort if I'm working. And
Yes.
if I have to work till 1 or 2 in the morning, yeah, understood, right? There'll be cut over, there'll be critical
Sure.
cycles in
Certain
the project when I
times.
need to work late. But if you're expecting me to work every day till 1 2 in the morning, right, that's just not going to last for too long, right? My health is, it's going to take a toll on my health, and eventually I'm going to look out to go somewhere else, right? So first start off with the timings, right? I think I just say, if you get those basics out of the way, let's start with that. The second thing, I think you and I have talked about this quite a bit, right, is ownership of work, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
just want a helper model, somebody who's pressing buttons, that's fine too. But you're going to get a very junior person who can do that for you,
Yes.
right? If you want a senior person who's just going to be a button pusher, again, that person is not going to be happy, right? Because
Right.
they're not
Right.
learning anything, right? I talked about the amount of competition that is there in India, right?
Yeah.
People want to be learning constantly, right? If they feel that they're stagnant for a year, 2 years, they feel that they're falling behind, they're going to move on, look for something else, right? So just make sure that the work is there, the work is meaningful. And if you're working with somebody in India, your primary role is to ensure that you're working with the client to set the right expectations, right?
Mm.
And then you're empowering your India team to be successful going along with that, right? So a handful of things like that. It really depends on, again, the context matters. If you're working in a services organizations, if you're working for a client, it's different. If you're working in a product organization, that's when I think a lot of times with the organizations, they probably just send one component of the product that's been working. They'll send that out to India and say, okay, your team works on this, our team in North America works on this, and then the European team works on that. I think usually that works out best as well, right? But those are the things that matter. I think stick with timing, stick with the quality of work. That's important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Understand who you're working with, right? Those are the things that are important as well. And I think beyond that, there's just treat everybody like a human being, which I think the Americans and the clients do that quite well, right? I've seen that
Okay.
in the past, but a lot of times it's also from India, right? We don't speak up and ask that, okay, I don't want to work at 1 o'clock. Do you realize it's like 1 o'clock in the morning here, right? They won't do it until it's very late into the project, right? So
Yes.
I think it goes both ways. I think what I have seen at least is that whenever I've had those conversations with anybody in the US, they've been very reasonable, right? As they would just say, "Oh, I didn't even realize. Let me just log in a couple hours early. We'll start our day a little bit earlier, so we get a bit more overlap with our team in India." And that's worked out quite well, right? But I think it's really about making sure you can have that honest conversation earlier in the project and not wait till the very end till you've burnt everybody out.
Yeah. No. No. That's really good. Oh, so I'm going to tell you one of my mindsets that,
Yeah.
and it could be just some of my experience, but correct me, or give me some insight. So one of the things that I felt like with I feel like more than not is I would never get pushback around
Yeah.
something that I would ask somebody to do. They would always just nod and smile, uh, but I felt like many times knowing that there's no way that they could do it. Is
Yeah.
that a thing? Is that a thing? Like, is it something that people should watch out for?
Uh, I would say a lot of times a yes is I heard you, not necessarily a yes I understand. I just heard you,
Okay.
and it's
Okay.
definitely not a yes I agree with you, right? So you probably need to dig in a little bit
Yes.
further, right?
Okay.
Uh,
Yes. Okay.
so this can be challenging. I understand, right? But again, I think it goes both ways, right? One thing I have done consistently is that I've always encouraged my team to make sure that they're very clear in their communication. If you don't agree with something, spell it out. Tell them that you don't agree with someone, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it's weird, right? So we used to do calibrations in our organization on a quarterly basis, right? That's when you kind of find out who's doing well, who's not doing well, what the managers are
Mm-hmm.
saying. And I heard a couple of times the manager say that this kid, he's rude, he's very direct. And I said, you know what? I like that. That's what we need to encourage. Those are the type of people. And I think it was almost like an aha moment for a lot of folks. They said, oh, you know what? This is kind of what is expected, right? Because if you're direct and if you just tell them like, this
Mm-hmm.
is what I need, this is what needs to get done, a
Yes.
lot of times, right, Bill, people want to hear that, right? I think our
Yes.
clients want to hear that, okay, this is not the way you should be doing it. We should be going in a different direction, and people appreciate that, right? So I used to never discourage folks, even if they were slightly rude. If they're in India, I'd say, okay, go for it. Maybe train them a little bit on how they communicate, but
That's
that was
good.
not something that I would encourage. But I get your point where you're coming from.
Okay. No, very
Yeah.
good. Very good. Uh, let's talk a little bit about your new endeavor, and
Mhm.
that you're actually so like me for a while I was working with Cinity. You worked with Cinity for a long time, and DMR, and anyway, you're at a point now where you're setting up your own business in India. And again, I'm just going to tell you what I've heard, and then I want you to be real and just let it loose here. So I've heard it's hard to start a business in India, and that it's just not a straightforward fill out the applications. There is definitely some relational uh, things that have to
Yeah.
happen to be able to set up a business. Is that like help us out? What do you got to do to set up a business in India?
It's become much easier now, right? So
Okay.
I would say that, maybe 15, 20, 15 years ago, it was definitely challenging. 15, 20 years ago, right? The level of
Okay.
paperwork that you had to get through. I think now it's become significantly easy, right? So I'll tell you, my organization, I wanted to open up two companies, right? One in the US, one in India, right?
Yes.
The US took me like 2 days, right? Like literally, you go
Yeah.
from 2 days to filling up an application to getting a bank account, right? So that
Yes.
we're not at that level of efficiency just yet, but
Okay.
it's still significantly easier now, right? So you don't need to visit any offices to get things done. It may take you a couple of weeks, right? The paperwork is also relatively straightforward, and I think there's a genuine effort, right, by the government to actually make things a lot easier to set it up, right? So I think they've come a long way from that perspective. Uh, if you're if you're an American who wants to open up an organization in India, even that is not too hard, right? I've done that a couple of times for our for a couple of companies before. Even that is not too hard. Again, there's a little bit more paperwork involved. You probably want to go through some agents as well, right, to make sure that you're getting all the paperwork right and you're setting it up the right way. But I think just the ease of doing business, right? It has definitely become significantly easier over the last, I would say, I think it's been happening constantly, but I would say last 10, 15 years, they've really made it a point to make things a lot easier in India, right? Again, still not there at the efficiency of what you have in the US by any means, but much better than what I would say where we were long ago.
No, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about your business. Like, what are you going to do?
So look, I'm self-funded, right? So I'm not, I don't have any funding. I'll be working. I've spent my whole career like you, right, in data, right? I've
Okay.
worked on data, ERP data. I'll be focusing on SAP data migration, ERP data migration. I'll be working on ERP data governance. I'll be focusing at this point of time pure play on services, right? So I think there is definitely a need. I feel there is a gap in the market in terms of people being able to deliver complex ERP transformations. And within that, I think data is the most critical element, right? If you've seen over the last just 5 years since the whole OpenAI thing came out,
Yes.
data quality has become very important, right? All these organizations
Yes.
now that are migrating, it's not just getting your crap data and moving it into your newest ERP system. Now
Yeah.
they want to actually clean it up, make sure that
Yes.
you have the right data in the right context, so that when you do put an AI system on top of your ERP, data that's coming day in and day out, it's not hallucinating. You're getting the right results, right? So I think there is a gap. I think there's opportunities, and I think there's opportunities for us to leverage a lot what's happening in the AI market as well to make sure that we can deliver a lot more things in a much more efficient in a scalable way, right? So I think there's a lot of scope, but I'm getting started, right? So Bill, you've been doing this for some time. I would definitely look for some advice from your end as well, right? What are you seeing out there?
Oh yeah, no, the data market's not going away anytime soon. That's for sure.
Right,
Yeah, I think things slowed down a little bit when the interest rates were so high, at least here in
right,
America. And one of the things that really drives our business is mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, right? In the big companies, the Johnson and Johnsons, the Exxon Mobil's, the General Mills. That slowed down. I think things slowed down a little bit on the consulting and services side with that, but it's ramping right back up. And
yeah,
and then all this I basically call it the AI revolution. What's having on with the AI revolution? Like it's amazing, and I'm leveraging AI to get 10 to 20 hours back in my life every
yeah,
week. Right? Like,
yeah.
it definitely
Uh,
helps, but it does so far. I've not seen anything that helps the pain points of the clients that we work with from an AI standpoint.
right,
Maybe accumulating some knowledge about data models, accumulating knowledge about governance strategy, that type of thing. So that's helpful. But the actual service part, so the actual, let's roll up our sleeves and do the work. Like AI is not going to
right,
do that, right? And so
right.
that's definitely not going away. One of the things that we struggle with in America, and I definitely want to hear your point of view of what you're going to do in India to have good resources, right? So you and I
Yeah,
both know that reputation means everything in this industry, right? So I've been in
right.
I've been in the SAP industry since the 1900s.
For a long time.
Okay, it's a long time, and my business has done very well on reputation. And so people know that I bring good resources to the market. If I bring someone, they basically come with a guarantee. Like they're either gonna deliver, you're not gonna pay for them, and almost always they just deliver, right? Uh, how are you gonna make sure that you guard your reputation and the people that you hire?
Well, I think first that awareness is important, right? I think what are the two most important things in any company? How you hire and how you keep your best people, right? I think
Yeah.
if you get those two things down, you'll solve a lot more problems, right? Or you'll be able to scale a lot better than most other folks, right? And I think this is something I know you and I have done for quite some time, right?
Yes.
Make sure you don't necessarily have to hire the best, right? Because the best will come with baggage, right? You hire some really good people, but you need the ones who are hungry. You need the ones who will work in a team, uh, and I think you treat them well, right? That's another important aspect as well. And what I used to always tell my hiring managers, right, is when you're hiring somebody, uh, don't hire for a specific role, right? Because that person is going to be plugged into that role right now. But
Yeah.
do you see that person scaling up to 2 levels above or 3 levels above? Because
Okay.
if you see that happening, hire those people, right? And it's okay to pay them a little bit more because you know they can scale up a lot quicker over time, right? So if you keep that in mind, I think those things are helpful. In India, the one of the big challenges in India has always been the attrition rate is very high, right? People move on very quickly, right? And I
Yes.
think it's driven culturally, right? I don't blame the folks for leaving, right? But if you are falling behind, right? If you're stuck on a bad project, if you're not getting the right amount of money from your current company, if you don't act within 1 to 2 years, you're going to fall behind. Right. And nobody wants to do that. Right. It's very, very different from what you have in North America and Europe in that sense. Right. Some similarities, no doubt. So you have to make sure that you guard for attrition. You have to keep in mind that if you're hiring somebody, is this person going to leave within the next year or two? If that person is going to leave, you should not hire that person, right? So first look for folks. If they've switched jobs every 1 or 2 years, you better stay away from that person because that person is going to give you trouble over time, right?
I see.
Then you look at, okay, how this person can scale up, right? Don't just test their current knowledge, but also look at what are the other aspects that they can be good at, right? If they are well spoken, if they can handle a client, you know that person can scale up.
Yeah.
I can teach that
Yeah.
person project management, right? I can put that person actually in front of a client, right? Those are the people that you value the most, right? So all those things you have to kind of take into consideration, right? When you do that, and then the other one, right? I think this is where I feel a lot of companies, it'll come back to bite them in the long run, right? Is the flexibility that we give people, right? We learned that from COVID, that you can go remote and you can still deliver at a very high value. In fact, you can be even
Yes.
more efficient, right? Now, all of a sudden, market slows down. All of a sudden, people are demanding. I need you at my desk
Back at the
5 days a
office.
week, right?
Yeah.
And you just think about that, right? I think there is some value to that, no doubt, right? If I have a team of people who are working on a product, if I can get all of them to come sit together and build that, makes a big difference, right? But
Yes.
if I have somebody working in Chicago, if I have someone working in Hyderabad, in Bangalore, in London, if those five people are working, if they need to show up to their various different offices,
Yes.
just for the sake of it, makes no sense whatsoever, right? And I think if you're able to give flexibility, if you're able to build that trust, right, with your employees, I think they will. You'll have better people join you. You'll have more people sticking around with you for a longer period of time. You'll have better referrals. You'll build a good image in the market as well as being an employer who also hires good people. And then the other network effect, right, Bill? I think
Yes.
just think about it, right? How many times you and I have worked on a project where you may be the smart. I'm sure you've been the smartest person on the project, right? But if there's 10 people on the project and eight of them are not very good, guess what happens? You're the one who's pulling the weight of those other eight folks
Oh
as well,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And I've seen that happen consistently, right? And I
Yes.
interview people who come in and they say, look, the company's treated me well, they're paying me well, all is good, but I'm just having to do so much work because that quality control filter just does not exist within these organizations, right? So you build a company where a majority of your people are not performing well, right?
Yes.
Even the good people are going to leave because they're going to feel the pressure to deliver a lot more, right? So I think it really starts with that. Stick to the basics. Hire good smart people who are eager, who will stick with you for a long period of time. Set the right expectations with your client to make sure that you're not putting them in positions where they're going to fail. And I think if you do two or three of those things, you know uh, it sounds simple. Execution, I've seen it, right? It goes horribly wrong in so many companies, right?
Sure.
You and I know we've been on so many projects where we had to rescue projects because they just made simple mistakes of just not
Yes.
hiring the right people, right? Or overcommitting
Yes.
to the client.
Yes. Yes. So tell me a little bit about your process because I know when we worked like with Cinity, there was actually a technical assessment, right? A
Right.
program that we went through, which I'm still doing something along those lines to today because I don't trust resumes. I don't trust interviews. I need some sort of assessment. Are you doing anything like that?
I will, right? So see,
Okay.
at this point of time, I'm doing referrals, right? So I know
Yes.
I'll hire people that I've known in the past life, right?
There you go.
And I think,
That's the
or
best.
even if I don't know them, I'll speak to folks that have worked with them in the past as well, right? So that's what I'm looking at, right, from a network standpoint. But if we need to get to scale, I think yes, having a more formalized assessment, is a lot is something definitely that I'll be doing in the future, right? Because reputation matters. You get one bad person onto a project, you lose your reputation. And starting off somewhere like me, it's very important to make sure that we keep that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Let's switch gears a little bit. So when I was working and had a center there that I was leading, I had quite a few of the consultants there that were really aspiring to move and live in America, right? So
Right.
you've been there, done that, and went back, right?
Right.
But is that still a thing? Is there still people? It seemed like a lot of them that were like, "Hey, I'm going to do this, and this is my ticket to America." Are you still finding that, or is that kind of a mixed match thing?
Oh no, it very much exists. The only thing is that the door is closed. right? There's just no
Yeah.
way you can send people to the US anymore, right? And I think one of the things which companies used to do in the past, right, and I think they're going to have to learn from that, and I think a lot of them have learned their lessons, is that they would keep wages in India low for their people in India. And once they reached a certain threshold where they can, if they're good, they would send them on site to the US, right? Because
Yes.
then be like, okay, now you're going to the US, I'm going to send you out, so I can still keep my India billing at a low level, but I can just send somebody on site over to the US, right? And
Yes.
that's, I don't think that's a great way of working, right? I don't think that's
Yeah.
that's the right way to do it, right? If I want to get, if I want to have a US presence, and I will, right? I'll want to get Americans in front of American clients. That's the biggest value addition that you can get, right?
Yes.
If you want to
Yes.
do it that way. And I want to get good people in India, right, who are talented, and I want to make sure that they stick around with me in India, which means you have to pay them more, right, compared to,
Yes.
yeah, rather than just saying that, okay, I'll ship you off. And given the fact that that door has completely closed, I think most organizations have already kind of gone in that direction, right? From what I can tell, some of them are forced to go in that direction. Some of them have to do will realize soon enough that they need to go there anyway. Uh, and then what you also have is I think one good thing that a lot of organizations do in India is they hire a lot of junior people, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
good junior folks, right? So I'll just give you an example, right? Every year there's about 2.5 million STEM graduates who come out of Indian universities, right? So that is, I think that's second to China. Right? China does the most. India is
Okay.
right after that. And that 2.5 million is more than the US and Europe combined, right? So
Okay.
that is how many actually
Yeah.
STEM graduates come out of India, right? And these kids are desperate, very, very smart, right? They're desperate. They want to join organizations. And a lot of them are now taken in by these big systems integrators, Accentures, Infosys, all of these companies bring them in 10, 15, 20,000 at a time. They'll actually give them very good training, then they'll deploy them onto projects, and
Yeah.
that kind of becomes your next generation of people how it can scale up and start taking on more and more opportunities, right? And that's become the feeder system now across the board, right? So somebody who's good, they may not get a job tomorrow they may not be able to go to the US, but if they have aspirations, they can grow within their organization, or they can go join a Microsoft who has a development center in India. They can join a Google, do some deep research work if you need to go into that as well, right? They can join one of the GCCs, right? They can join, let's say, an Exxon Mobil or a J&J who may have their global captive centers in India as well, right? Or they can join a startup, right? They can come and join me on a startup, right?
Nice.
If they want to do that, right? So I think that feeder system is very important. I think this is where a lot
Mm.
of these systems integrators, we should give them a lot of credit, right? The way they're able to take these people out of college, get them trained, give them real world experience, and get them deployed onto projects. I think that feeder system is important, and I think there's an entire ecosystem that's kind of been built on top of it, right? So every year you have again 2.5 million people coming in. I would say majority of them don't even get jobs, right? So a lot of them don't even get jobs because only probably maybe
Wow.
500,000 of them actually get absorbed into one of these organizations, and then they can scale up from there. But I don't know. I kind of went into a different direction, but hopefully
No,
that
no,
have answered your
no. That
question.
that that's that's fascinating because I had no idea that there were that many. And you called it STEM. What does STEM mean?
Science, STEM is what? Science, technology. It's
Oh,
math
like
and science
technic.
basically.
It's like okay,
Technical.
technical.
I've
Okay,
science. I'm trying to figure it out, right? I think
I
it's
can look.
science,
I can look it up, but
technology.
I just
I
okay.
don't know what the E is for, and M is for math, right? So these are all basically all technology. So it's not just engineering; it could be computer science and a few other things as well that are included as part of it. But that's kind of what I was referring to, right? And you get a lot of those kids who are coming out.
I see. No, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good. Um, I just am thinking out loud right now because I think I hear Sherry out there, and one of the things that she loved about visiting India was the food. Like she just
yeah,
went nuts because she's vegetarian, and for those of you
right.
that maybe have never been to India, we would go to restaurants, and there'd be a menu that was 5 pages long. The first 4 and 3/4 pages were all veg items, and then at the back and the very bottom in small print, would be like hamburger, a steak, maybe some chicken. But there's 297 different veg options, and so that was really fun when we visited. You took us to some great
Yes.
restaurants there.
I think if you come down now, it's gotten even better, right? The
Yeah.
restaurants have gotten even better. I think all sorts of cuisine from all across the world, all parts of India as well. So if you're vegetarian, non-vegetarian, whatever it is, right? You'll find something out here, right? So no,
Yeah.
Hyderabad's definitely grown. When was the last time you were here, Bill? Was it when you
Oh,
visited 20 mid 2020 mid 2010s, right? I would think.
yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think you definitely need to make another trip down. There's been a lot of change, right,
Uh,
over the years.
sure.
The traffic is still bad, though. The traffic is still bad. So it's still people still don't drive very well.
No, the funny thing, that was another thing we learned in Hyderabad, because that's the only place I've been in India. But my experience in Hyderabad was that traffic laws were suggestions, not law. They're simply a suggestion.
I know it's terrible. Yeah, it is awful.
I would see
And
rickshaws
yeah,
on the sidewalk going the opposite direction of traffic. Yeah, the light would turn red and it would still go. And then there's, I don't know, road guard, security, whatever, the police, they're yelling and screaming at people to stop, and they're
yeah.
going around them.
Yeah, I think India is a perfect place where we can probably get some of those autopilot
Cars,
cars, right?
yeah.
Just just make sure nobody drives. All you do is sit in a car that only has autopilot, and that's how you'll get things under control. Otherwise, it's just total chaos to get this thing under control.
That's so wild. That's so wild. So
So,
Hyderabad is a big tech center in India, and a great place to find resources. What are some of the other great places in India to find resources?
well, Bangalore is the big one, right? I think Bangalore is where it all started. So you'll find probably Bangalore is where you'll get the most talent. Hyderabad's right up there. Chennai, Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta, and then some of the other smaller cities are also coming up, right? For with their own technology centers, right? So I think there's quite a few. Uh, Ideally, like I said, if you work in a niche a company like we do, right? Niche area,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
very specific ERP, data migration, data conversion, right?
Yes.
You should have a strategy where you can get people from all across India, right? If you can't just restrict it to one city, that'll be, I think, scaling will become a problem over time, right? And the good thing is, as I think the urban infrastructure is still lagging, right? There's still a lot more work to be done on the urban infrastructure side. But if you look at the highways that have been built over the last 15, 20 years, right? If you look at some of the freeways that have been built, some of the airports that have been built, right? The digital infrastructure that you see now, right? So your
Mm.
fiber optic cables that go, and I go to my farms, uh, and I got a fiber optic cable connection and a 5G connection to go along with that, right? So I got no
Wow.
problem sitting there working on the farms when I don't need to be in the city, right? So I think there's a lot of things that have been done which we don't see if you're only in the cities, purely from an infrastructure standpoint, because the city infrastructure is absolute garbage, right? You come and see it's just horrible to be living in cities in India nowadays. But a lot more work has been done across the board, right? So even logistics has become a lot more simpler. So I think I know we're going into a different direction, right? But I think outside of tech, right? I've seen a lot more progress happening in India, right?
Nice.
Because even if you look at tech today, right, what we have, 5 or 6 million people directly employed, maybe another 5 million people indirectly employed in technology. That's around
Mm-hmm.
10 to 12 million people in a
Yeah.
working age population of 500 million people, right, who are working age
Yeah.
right now, right? So it's still a drop in, right? If you want to get a lot of the other things going, you need to develop your ports, you need to develop your logistics networks, right?
Yes.
And I think there's a lot more work that has already been kind of done in that direction, which we see very visibly when we move out of the cities.
No, that's good. That's good. So Vijay, one of the primary, I think, catalysts that were pushing development work and technology work to India was the ability to get good resources for, I just say it, a much lower
Cheap,
rate, cheap,
right?
so high value. Is that still true? So? Yeah. So help me understand. Like, is this something that is still a reason to work with India or not?
So it is one of the reasons, right? So
Okay.
I always say that you can get anybody from button pushers to rocket scientists in India, right?
Yes.
It depends on what you want to do, right?
Sure.
So if you just need somebody to push buttons, yeah, you can get that person for fairly cheap, right? I think you'll be able to get away with that. If you need somebody who's smart, can solve major problems, who can grow and scale within your organizations, you're going to have to pay a little bit more, right? As you grow up the ranking. So I think there is a vast array of talent that's out there, right? So don't box yourself and go in with the assumption that I want to go to India because it's cheap, right? If you go with that assumption, you can find those people, right? But don't then think that,
Yes.
okay, if they're cheap, they're not going to be very good, right? That's the other
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
issue you deal with, right? But you can get extremely good, very good talent in India. You're going to have to pay more for that talent as well, and then you're going to find the folks at the lower end as well, right? Really depends on what you need. So that's really where this whole ecosystem is put together, right? You can go from anywhere. You can really do anything that you want, right? If you need to be there, if you need good project managers, you can get excellent project managers in India as well, right? Uh,
Yeah.
if you're looking at solution architects, you can get really good solution architects who worked on different technologies. You can get those guys as well, right? uh,
Yeah.
you can, if you want delivery partners, right? So you can go very high up there. You can get really good high level talent, uh, but don't expect all of those people to be cheap, right? I think
No, that's good.
with talent comes the pricing. Yeah.
Let's get super specific if you don't mind. So, like, if
Yeah.
I'm hiring a migration consultant in North America, the minimum I'm going to have to pay that person is like 150,000 a year
Okay.
USD. What how does that translate in India?
So let's say a migration consultant is somebody who can handle an object independently,
Yes.
who can talk to the client, understands SAP, understands the business process, and things like that, right?
Yes.
So I think you can talk. So I gotta use my translation now. I could use my converter now, right? But I would say you can get an average person for between 20 lakhs. So let's convert that
Yeah,
to
yeah, go ahead. Use your
dollars.
calculator.
I'm
And
gonna
again,
go,
we're talking about the cost on our side. And so this isn't what
yeah,
we charge our clients, right? There's we
right,
make money, right? We're in business, we make
right,
money. And so there's,
yeah,
there's all of that.
yeah.
So what's 20 lakhs?
I would say if you spend between 35 to $50,000, you'll get
Okay.
all inclusive. You can find somebody very good, right? Again, somebody who can talk to the client, who can understands the technology, who understands SAP, who understands business process. Uh, you could probably lead a couple of juniors as well if needed, right? So if you're looking at
Yeah.
somebody like that, if you pay somewhere between that, you'll find somebody very good, right? So
Yeah.
it's not $5 an hour, right? It's definitely more
No,
than that,
no, and that's
right?
that's that's what I
But
that's what I want to help people understand. Like, we're not
yeah,
talking about people working out of cardboard boxes in India. We're talking about professionals that and I'm going to ask you because I think it's important for our listeners to understand. So when I'm paying a minimum of $150,000 a year, that is I would say that's upper middle class at least. Maybe
yeah,
maybe even more in North America. So somebody is going to be able to take care of really all of their needs for their family, have take a vacation, have a nice holidays, that type of thing. Does that translate the same way in India? So if you're paying somebody
I would think so.
equivalent 20
Yeah,
lakhs, like they're living a good life. They're not like struggling, so to speak, to make ends meet?
No, no, no. I think they're a middle, they're a, they should be upper middle to middle class life. So I
Okay.
think that's a
Yeah.
good salary to pay for somebody if they're in the city, if they're in the city, right? I think if
Yeah.
they're living somewhere in rural, they'll be a lot happier. They'll be a lot better off than most folks out
Yeah.
there, right?
No,
But
no, that's really good. And so, and again, not to give anybody's rates away or whatever, but I think we can talk industry standards and just based on the conversation we had, that's probably going to be between like a 30 to 50% delta or difference in what I have to charge and what you have to charge, right? So we
right,
both, like we said, to hire good people, you have to pay. And in my experiences, I always want to pay above industry average, right? So to
right,
hire and retain good people, you're gonna have to pay above industry average. When we look at what that looks like in U.S. versus India, to hire those good people and retain them, there is a significant difference in the dollar amount, which means you can get somebody that's very skilled for a less amount of money. And so I think
absolutely.
that's an important thing, and I do love that you did articulate, which I would have done as well. Like don't come looking for $5 an hour, right? Now
Right.
you might find a freelancer on Upwork that's doing
Hmm.
YouTube thumbnails for $5 or $10 an hour. That's fine, but we're talking about professional. In this case, we're talking about a migration consultant, right? That's not
Right.
happening.
Absolutely. No, no, no.
That's not
Absolutely,
happening.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, and I used to put it this way, right? Like if you were to take the folks that were to bring in, put them on a plane, send them to the US, you'd be able to charge them what you charge a US rate consultant, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at, like a full equivalent India-based consultant who has the same skill set as you have over there, right? So no difference in terms of what they bring to the table, right? In terms
Yeah.
of their overall skill set, right? Uh,
Yeah.
I think that, like you said, right, that's still a big difference. The What you see though, Bill, I think there's when you start scaling in India, right? And that's what I've noticed, right? The way you can scale in India is very, very different from how you can scale in North America, right? You can scale up super quick, right? You can go from like 500 to 20,000, right? And it's not easy to do that, something like that
No.
in North
No.
America, right?
Definitely not.
And what you always want to do is make sure that you have the right mix of people. So you get those seniors who know what they're doing, but at the
Yes.
same time you get a few juniors as well, right? Because
For
again, these
sure.
guys are hungry, they want to learn, and they can get up to that level within a few years if they put in the right if the right kind of situation as well, right? And those are the people that you can get for super cheap, right? Because they're out of college, they're desperate, they will just want to get some experience. Once they get that 2 year, once they hit 2 years experience, right? Now all of a sudden their value goes up. Their value will go up almost three-fourths in the market, right? So
Gotcha.
you have to keep that in mind. If you find somebody for super cheap, if you get that person trained, don't just assume that you're going to just pay that person peanuts for the rest of their life, right? Their value is going to increase. So you have to factor that in
Mm.
when you bring those people in, right? And I think
Yes.
that's a lot of mistakes that people make. Like they assume that, okay, I'm paying 3% raises in North America, so I'm going to give 7, 8% raises in India. It's a little bit more in India. I'm going to do that for an extended duration and I'll be okay. And it just fundamentally doesn't work, right? Like once you get someone super cheap, you get them trained. Now
Yes.
everybody wants to hire that person. The value of that person is going to increase drastically within 2 years of them joining you.
So good. So good. One last topic to hit on. I know as
Sure.
part of you launching your company, you made a trip to the U.S. and I was one of your stops, and there was many other people that you went to see to sort of you know spread the word, right?
Hey.
That you're up and coming. Tell me a little bit more about your sales and marketing strategy to launch this company. How are you on a daily, weekly, whatever business showing up and um, finding leads and tracking down those leads?
The hardest part, right, Bill?
Yes, yes, yeah.
so
That's why I'm
so
taking notes.
so look, I think for me starting off, right, I am purely focused on my own network, right? My own
Yep.
internal network that I've developed over the last, whatever, 15, 20 years of being in this industry, right? So I am focusing on, again, folks that are new. And I think my approach is, uh, it doesn't have, it's not the best way to do it. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's the best way for me to do it is I'm focusing purely on the North American market, right? I think that's
Yeah.
where the most value I think I'll get the most value for my time, right? Because I think, those are the most complex, challenging markets. Americans are the most demanding, right? But they also pay the best, right? I think if you
Yes.
show them
Yes.
value, they're the ones who'll be able to help you scale a lot quicker, right? And then simultaneously in India, I'm looking at a lot of these GCCs, right? These global captive centers who have their centers in India, where they are also looking for a lot of work over there, right? So that's kind of what my narrowed focus is, initially, right? And I think once things, develop, once they grow, then I look to look into other markets as well. But right now, I would say, my entire focus is on the North American market and on these GCCs that are based out of India.
So good.
Yeah.
Awesome. This has been a great
Yeah.
conversation. I feel like we need to have more of these.
No, no doubt, right? I think we can get more into details, right? But I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it, Bill, and thank you for your time. And I like this. This looks like fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Let me last question. If I get a
Yeah.
project and need help from you, how long is it going to take to ramp somebody up? How long before you have that will it take you to find that person and say, "Bill, they can start this project?"
Well, you're lucky right now. I have somebody who will be available on Monday, right? It's Friday
Nice.
right now, right? But generally, right, when you're looking at the way things work in India, right,
Yes.
uh, there's a 3 month notice period, right? So if I have to go out
Mm.
and hire somebody, right, I have to make an offer to that person. So it may take me, let's say, optimistically 2 weeks to source, interview, and make an offer to that person, right? Once I've made an offer to that person, then that person has to resign, and it takes 3 months for them to actually go through their entire notice period. It's a really bad process, right? I think most organizations have themselves to blame for it because they've put that into the contracts. And now the problem is that, if an organization says that I'm going to reduce my notice period from 3 months to 1 month, every other organization is going to go and try and hack them, hack the
Yes.
employees from that
Yes.
company, right? So now it has become like an industry norm, which is absolutely ridiculous, right?
That's
So
wild.
ramping up can take time, right? Because it
Yes.
takes those
Okay.
3 months, right? And what also tends to happen, right, in that time is that when you get, let's say I make an offer to somebody and they're serving a 3 month notice period. Once they get their notice period, they start hunting for other jobs as well, right?
Sure.
So
To see what
so
the highest bidder.
so what the highest bidder can get them, right? And so now the third strategy now is that there are companies, I would say, and I would say a majority of companies today are only hiring people who are already serving their notice period, which is that's how ridiculous this whole thing has become, right? The
Yes.
whole hiring scene in India right now, right? So work with somebody who you trust, right? Rather than just going randomly and somebody who's throwing some resumes at you, because you're not going to be happy. They will probably not get the same person that they've promised you because that person is not onboarded onto their company
Mm,
payroll yet. So work with somebody who you can trust, right?
that's good.
And try to give as much advance notice as possible, right? I
Okay.
think those are the two things that are advised, right? And but if you're working in India, you kind of have to build up a little bit of a bench, right? Just make sure you have a good bench and not just some random yahoos that are out there.
So good, so good. Well, Vijay, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast today. Appreciate you. Pray blessings over you and your family, and look so forward to our next conversation.
No, great talk. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.